SpaceX chief Elon Musk has unveiled his most ambitious project yet, an interplanetary transport system to take man to Mars in 80 days and build a sustainable human colony of 1 million people there. What I want to achieve is make Mars seem possible, to show that we can do it in our lifetimes, and you could go, he said at the International Astronautical Congress in Mexico. However, he warned the trip was likely to be dangerous and said candidates for the first missions must be prepared to die. I think the first journeys to Mars will be really very dangerous, said Musk. The risk of fatality will be high. There's just no way around it. Are you prepared to die? If that's okay, then you're a candidate for going, he added. He also said he wouldn't be vying to be the first man on Mars. The risk of death would be quite high, and I'd like to watch my kids grow up. He admitted he would take the trip. One day, I'd definitely like to go to orbit, visit the space station and ultimately go to Mars, he said. I'd need to make sure if something goes wrong there's a succession plan in place. Investors taking over the company would be my biggest fear. This is less about who goes there first. The thing that really matters is making a self-sustaining civilization on Mars as fast as possible. This is different than Apollo. This is really about minimizing existential risk and having a tremendous sense of adventure, he said. Musk outlined plans for a fleet of large mega-shuttles that would take 100 people at a time to Mars for $200,000 a trip, after warning eventually history suggests there will be some extinction event on Earth. One path is we stay on Earth forever and there will be some eventual extinction event. I don't have a doomsday prophesy, he said. The other is to become a spacefaring and interplanetary species, which I think some would say is the right way to go. That's what we want. He hopes to set up a self-sustaining city on the red planet with 1 million people. It will not be an outpost but will become a city in its own right. He explained that there were no real options other than Mars. We can grow plants on Mars by compressing the atmosphere. It would be fun there, as gravity is a third of what it is on Earth. The interplanetary transport system will use a giant rocket booster with a 12 m diameter and a special shuttle with a 17 m diameter, making the entire rocket stack 122 m high. Musk said it will have 49 Raptor engines, and Musk hopes the first test craft could fly in just 4 years. Trip time can be as low as 80 days. Ultimately, we can cut that to 30 days in the not-too-distant future. Musk also promised the craft would have restaurants and zero-gravity games to make the trip bearable. It will be fun. You'll want to go, he said. We need to go from these exploration missions to building a city, he said. He also pledged to make the price of a trip to Mars the same price as a house – $200,000. Ultimately, we think this could drop to $100,000. Obviously, it will be a challenge to fund this, Musk admitted. It will be a public-private partnership. That's how the United States was funded, he said. As we show this is possible, I think the support will snowball over time, and the main reason I'm accumulating assets is to fund this. He also claimed the two planets were similar. They are remarkably close in a lot of ways. We now believe that early Mars is a lot like Earth, and if we could warm Mars up we could once again have a thick atmosphere and liquid oceans, decent sunlight. A little cold, but we can warm it up. It has a very helpful atmosphere. It means that we can grow plants on Mars just by compressing the atmosphere. Musk also admitted the system could be used to deliver cargo. We could transport cargo to anywhere on Earth in 45 minutes, and most places would be 20 to 25 minutes. Maybe if we had a floating platform outside of New York, for instance, you could cross the Atlantic in 10 minutes. If things go super well, we could go to Mars within a 10-year timeline. We will do our best. The giant rockets will launch from Cape Canaveral, then release the capsule once in orbit, where it will park while waiting for a refuel for the trip to Mars. The giant rockets will launch from Cape Canaveral, then release the capsule once in orbit, where it will park while waiting for a refuel for the trip to Mars. It will then return to Earth to pick up a fuel tank for the shuttle, saving money on the launch, and launch again to rendezvous with the shuttle again. It will repeat this process 3 to 5 times to refill the fuel tanks and take cargo. Once on Mars, the shuttle will make methane for its return journey. On the way to Mars, solar panels will deploy to create energy for the shuttle, taking it to the red planet at a speed of just over 100,000 kilometers per hour. It will glide to the red planet's surface, landing horizontally, allowing for an easy relaunch once enough fuel has been made. what the video shows it what we will build. Musk said, "This is not what it might look like. This is what it will look like." Musk said he plans to send fleets of the craft to the Red Planet and back to Earth. His eagerly anticipated presentation, titled "Making Humans a Multiplanetary Species" at the International Astronautical Congress in the western Mexican city of Guadalajara, proved so popular its start was delayed to fit more people in. When asked if he was planning a toilet, Musk said the main thing about Mars will be energy. There's plenty of water. It's about getting solar panels out there. He was also asked who the first visitors should be. "The first journeys will be very dangerous, so I wouldn't suggest sending children. People would have to be prepared to die to be a candidate. This is less about who goes there first. It's about making a self-sustaining civilization on Mars as soon as possible." He also addressed safety fears. "There's some risk of radiation, but it's not deadly," Musk said. "You need to have some shielding from solar flares. Over time you could construct an artificial magnetic field to deflect them." He also admitted he had no plans to build the city. "The goal of SpaceX is to build the transport system. Once that's built, there is a tremendous opportunity to create something new, to build everything from iron refineries to the first pizza joint. Our goal is to get you there. It's also important to give people the option to come back," Musk said. "In any case, we need the spaceship back. You get a free return trip if you want it. On Earth, you can go anywhere in 24 hours. There's no physical frontier anymore. Space is that frontier." Musk also said he hoped anyone would be able to take the trip. "You'll maybe need a few days of training," he said, "in order to make this thing work. It's probably an investment of $10 billion. Musk also raised the idea of interstellar travel in the future. "The key thing is to establish a base on Mars. That's what will lead us to interstellar travel. It would be very tricky to do it off the bat." He will discuss the long-term technical challenges that need to be solved to support the creation of a permanent, self-sustaining human presence on Mars. The conference's program says SpaceX plans to send an unmanned Dragon cargo capsule to Mars as early as 2018, paving the way for a human mission that would leave Earth in 2024 and arrive on the Red Planet the following year. However, experts are skeptical of the feasibility. Reaching Mars, 225 million kilometers from Earth on average, and living there would require major feats of engineering and a massive budget. It's unlikely that we'll be able to get humans on Mars by 2025. John Logsdon, former director of the Space Policy Institute at George Washington University, said, noting that Musk has wrongly forecast the launch of SpaceX rockets in the past. SpaceX would have to team up with the state space agency to afford such a mission, he said. "Bottom line is the cost. You're talking of tens of billions of dollars, and SpaceX doesn't have that type of money." However, while Musk's timeline is ambitious, it's exciting to have someone with a vision, and we are all interested to see what he has in mind and whether he can make a compelling case, Logsdon added. SpaceX has already designed the powerful Falcon rocket, which could send a manned Dragon spacecraft towards the Red Planet. SpaceX has already designed the powerful Falcon rocket, which could send a manned Dragon spacecraft towards the Red Planet. The U.S. space agency NASA, which is also studying the effects of long-term spaceflight on the human body, has announced its own plans to send people to Mars by the 2030s. A research village could be built on the Moon to serve as a stepping stone to a Mars mission, European Space Agency Chief Jan Warner said at a news conference on Monday. "To go to Mars means also to use the resources over there, and this can be also tested on Moon," he said. SpaceX has designed the powerful Falcon Heavy rocket, which could send a manned Dragon spacecraft into space. The company plans to launch the 70-meter-tall rocket, which has a lift-off thrust equivalent to 18 Boeing 747 jets, later this year. SpaceX was hit by a setback on September 1 when its smaller Falcon 9 rocket exploded on the launch pad during a test in Florida, destroying a satellite Facebook had planned to use to beam high-speed internet to Africa. SpaceX had previously logged 18 successful Falcon 9 launches. The California-based company has also successfully landed a spent rocket vertically 4 times, a key achievement for the company's goal of producing reusable rockets instead of jettisoning their parts into the ocean during liftoff. The firm test-fired one of its new Raptor interplanetary transport engines, which the company will use to carry astronauts to Mars. The rocket engine is 3 times more powerful than the one on the Falcon 9 rockets. It will ultimately be used to launch SpaceX's manned spacecraft off our planet. Elon Musk, chief executive of SpaceX, said the rocket will be ultimately capable of producing thrust of 690,000 pounds over 382 seconds. The engine is powered using liquid methane and liquid oxygen rather than the kerosene used in the Merlin engines of its Falcon 9 rockets. Writing on Twitter, Mr. Musk said, "SpaceX propulsion just achieved first firing of the Raptor interplanetary transport engine." He also posted an image highlighting mock diamonds, the diamond-shaped shockwaves that appear in jet flares within the huge exhaust flame from the engine in the test at the McGregor Rocket Engine Test Facility, Texas. The rocket engine uses methane as they are much cleaner than the current kerosene engines. SpaceX has also said it may be possible to obtain methane from natural sinks on the surface of Mars for refueling ahead of return missions. Earlier this month, Mr. Musk announced he intends his Mars Colonial Transporter, which was expected to carry astronauts to the Red Planet by 2020, could have capabilities elsewhere in the solar system. SpaceX has now renamed the spacecraft as the Interplanetary Transport System. Mr. Musk is due to unveil more details of the spacecraft at the International Astronautical Congress later this month. When SpaceX first announced the Raptor engine in 2010, 9 of them were expected to be used to lift its Falcon X heavy-lift vehicle into orbit. The company's plans have since evolved and it is expected to be used as part of the Interplanetary Transport System. It has also been testing its Dragon 2 crew vehicle that it hopes will be used on missions to Mars. The test, however, comes just 3 weeks after SpaceX lost one of its Falcon 9 rockets and the $200 million satellite it was carrying in an explosion on the launch pad at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. A large breach in the helium cryogenic system was detected just moments before a fireball engulfed the rocket, destroying the launch pad in the explosion.